As a man, and I look at Japan and the canaries in the coal mine, where Japan's going to lose a third of its population in the next 20 years, and Japanese men face the similar dilemma where they're flooded with herbivore men, grass eaters, essentially,
Mhm.
where to be a man in Japan, to have a full time wage, you have to work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Mhm.
And then what happens is you give your money to your wife, and then she divorces you because it's statistics. You give all your money away. You live in a tiny box by yourself. All these men have basically walked away in Japan saying, it's better for me to have a part-time job for $20,000 a year,
Mhm.
effectively, and I get a roommate or two, and I'm fine. And what's happening here in the United States is exactly that.
Yes.
You see tiny homes, you see no buying of these major consumer electronics or any kind of fashion. J. Crew is dying. I mean, all that kind of stuff. What you see is all that. Men are not standing up saying, you know what, when I hear this thing about patriarchy and how we're so bad and evil and blah, 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 we just turn and walk and say, fine, we're
Yes.
done.
Yes.
We're done because you're setting me up for any kind of Title IX. You're setting me up for any kind of false rape allegation, or you're going to push me into a common law marriage, or you're going to put me in a marriage fictitious relationship and take all my money and make me homeless. No.
So let's deconstruct that
Yeah.
and take a look at that. So we have two things going on here. One is what I call a purpose void, and another is a dad void. And we have both of them working together. And so let's just use US and Japan since you use those two countries. Historically speaking, in the US and in Japan, boys grew up with a sense of purpose. Their purpose was to be disposable in war or disposable in work. And so the good news is boys today have less need to be disposable in war and disposable in work. Now, in Japan, this is even more so. It used to be during World War II, and when Japan was part of the Axis powers, that every boy was trained to be disposable in war. But when Japan lost in World War II, we took over the protection of Japan. So Japanese boys no longer had to prepare for disposability in war. The good news and the bad news was that they had a purpose void. The good news about a purpose void is you didn't have to prepare to be disposable in order to be a male. The bad news about a purpose void is that you had a purpose void. And the other half of that was what they call the salary man in Japan, and that women didn't want to marry a man who wasn't a salary man unless he had a super amount of property. So let's deconstruct that one. Look what's happened in Japan there. The boys, the newer generation of boys that you call that a high percentage are herbivores, they have a game called Karoshi. Karoshi comes from their parents' propensity to work so hard, the father's propensity to work so hard that they died at the desk or died from overwork. Karoshi means in Japanese, die at the desk or die from overwork, depending on how you define it. And so these boys have what I call boys' uncommon wisdom in the millennial generation of, do I really want to spend my life climbing up a ladder of overworking and dying at overwork? So they've developed a game called Karoshi. And in this game called Karoshi, everybody just competes to climb up the ladder to the very top, to be this person of male privilege and male power. And the person who gets to the top, what they do, not in real life, but in the game, is they commit suicide.
They commit suicide. But what happens if you get a girlfriend?
You have a girlfriend? I don't know how that works.
I think in the game, if you get a girlfriend, it's a setback because you're not going to kill yourself faster.
Is that right?
That's right.
A nuance of the game.
I had to ask a couple of friends about this game. They were really into it. Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Thank you. It's another level of proof of that pudding. So you can get a sense that what the Japanese who play Karoshi are onto is that climbing to the top of the ladder to get to against a wall that you never chose out of your choice, what that wall would stand for, what you'd be climbing toward, is not power, but it's a myth of male power. And that is the understanding that led me to writing the book, The Myth of Male Power, that power is about having the understanding and the emotional support to discover who you are internally and then to be able, with the guidance of your parents, to take that discovery of who you are and with their help guide you to having the combination of pursuing your passion with being able to sustain a family with earning enough money, and put the obligations of income together with the passions of income, because those two are almost always in tension with each other. We hear people say, follow your passion, and your money will come, or follow your. But the truth is, when you follow your bliss, it's the money you'll miss, because when you follow your bliss, you usually follow it to be the artist, to be the writer, to be the actor, to be the musician. And those are the people in the society who have enormous troubles making a living to sustain enough people if they have multiple children. And so we have deprived men of power, and we have defined power as what I would call the definition of male power that is not articulated, is feeling obligated to earn money that someone else spends while we die sooner.
Yes, that's
And
exactly correct.
no woman would be stupid enough to call that power.